voters, it scared the Democrats, and also the good news is that it shows how protests work, because in New York, he's been harassed endlessly by activists who demonstrating in front of his house in Brooklyn. Brooklyn for Peace has been very active, and his office in Brooklyn and in DC, and wherever he goes, people are following him. So, and he, including Jewish Voice for Peace, has been very active. So it shows that, it works. If you just keep harassing these politicians enough, they'll,
That's right. And then it didn't, I don't know if this is true or fake news. Didn't Biden make a comment and says, he thinks maybe that Schumer's right about.
Yes, he did. He did. He agreed with Schumer.
Well, let's hopefully he can back, and he does a lot of talking. He needs to back up his talking with actions, right? With tangible actions that we're not getting much from Biden there.
Well,
I wanted to try something. I wanted to try the same thing you do. I love how you do it. I want to see if it works, where you have a dumb Palestinian and a dumb Palestinian. And I wanted to see if I could do it like you do it. Do you want to try it just to kind of initiate this? And
go onto your screen share.
Yeah, I think I have it here.
And go on to your Chrome or wherever your browser is.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, it should work.
Can you hear it though? I don't know.
No, not yet.
Yeah, for some reason,
maybe the sound, your sound needs to get turned up. Check your sound.
Yeah, I need to turn up the sound. Maybe I have it on, but I guess
but check the video, the sound on the video. No, go to the left.
Right, on the video itself.
Go to the left. Go all the way to the left, and the little sound, the little thing down below.
Down below, right. Let me check it. Yeah. I see it. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, I see it. And so.
And check your computer sound.
Well, my computer.
Okay. I don't know why it's not playing. That's happened to me a couple of times, and it was.
I've got it on, but it's not. I don't think you're getting the sound. I've got all the sound stuff on.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. I don't know why.
So you're seeing only the.
I see it. I see the video, but I don't hear it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like the way you do it.
Yeah.
I thought I would do the same thing.
I'll go out of it and then go back into it again.
Okay. See if I can do that.
Sometimes when he kills something, you go.
I'm out. I'm out of it now. Let's see if it.
Go back into your shared screen.
Right. Okay. Let me see.
It's in the bottom. Yeah. And it's still.
You can still see it, but you can't hear it, right?
Yeah. What does it say at the top? I can't read your screen. You are viewing Frank Romano's screen. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why it doesn't do it, but I figured it out. It did work when
you tried it.
It worked then, but for some reason it's not working now. Okay. Well, I just want to check it.
Check your mute. Your mute is your mute on? Yeah, I think your mute is on the left of the screen.
You think that mute's on? You mean on my computer?
Yeah. Check. Go to the lower left. Yeah. All right, now play it again. No, I think mute is on.
The mute is on, huh? Oh, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see.
No.
Maybe that's what it is, but oh well. I just wanted to try it. I'll have to work on that, right?
Yeah, it's a challenge. So I just got a message that they bombed, killing 35 more people in that refugee camp. It begins with a K. I can't say it. The name. I forget the name, but it was one they posted. Yeah, it's just really disgusting. I have this on Facebook Live also. I put the event on Facebook Live, so it's being recorded on Facebook Live also.
Oh, great. Yeah, someone's joining us. It's
Somebody else is here.
yeah, someone's coming on.
IUGHT, whoever that is.
Yes, and hello. Hello. Hi. I remember you. This wonderful lady. You have to remind me your first name again. It's been so long.
Brenda.
Brenda. Yeah, Brenda and her
Yes.
husband invited Alan and I, when we're talking about the Bonhoeffer play to their place. And this is Jacqui. Brenda, have you met Jacqui?
I don't think so. Hi,
This
Jacqui.
is Jacqui Basker. She
Am I the
visited.
only one here?
Yeah, we're it for now. I mean, there might be some people joining later, but
And we're also on Facebook Live, and you can't always tell how many people are on.
Right.
Facebook Live, there's usually a couple on there, but you can't see them right away.
Could I ask a favor? Could you guys make sure your microphones are at max? Because I'm having a lot of trouble hearing. I might have to put on my earphones.
Okay, I've got mine on max. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Well,
Brenda?
I can, but yeah, it's a
Just
little
hard, huh? Okay.
Mm.
I've got it on max now. I don't know about Jacqui if she's got, but it's
Yeah,
max.
mine is up highest. Yeah.
And now Brenda's you lived in Egypt. You were in Egypt.
Yes, I lived in Egypt and I traveled all over the Mideast and mostly the Levant. Yeah.
Yes. And
Syria,
I met Brenda. We started speaking Arabic so I can practice my Arabic. And Palestinian Arabic is rather near, and so we had a nice conversation and we've kept up from there.
So I just want to share with you, I have a dear friend in Austin, Texas, who has been working very assiduously with a number of groups there on the Gaza situation, trying to get their city council to put pressure on the governor, et cetera, to, push Mr. Biden for more action, whatever.
Yes.
So they were instrumental in having a number of companies and groups who withdraw from the Austin Music Festival.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you know, I think it's SWSX or something like that. It's a big festival they have every year.
I was there in Austin about that time years ago. That's all I know. And why are they withdrawing? Why are they withdrawing from there?
In support of Gaza.
Oh, wow. How about that? How about that?
Musicians and some other organizations. I guess it was quite a large batch of people who withdraw from that festival, which is meaningful because the festival brings in lots of money to the city of Austin every year.
Wow, that's huge.
Thousands and thousands of tourists come there for the festival and spend their money, etc. So it was quite an accomplishment.
I'm going to look it up because that's so important. If we could somehow globalize these type of boycotts, it could be very, very effective because it's especially talking about bringing money in. It's the money thing, right? That makes people.
Exactly. Money talks.
Yeah.
Much as we wish it didn't, it does.
It does. And here I'm now in France. Now Jacqui, and of course, money is starting to talk more, just like in the United States, but politicians here in France. Now Jacqui has a place in Jordan, and she's been going back and forth for years.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and Amman, and I've been with her. Yeah, yes, right, Jacqui, and she's still.
I'm leaving. I'm going back next month.
Oh,
I just want to mention one other good thing about Texas.
Yes.
I got a Facebook post that people were in a bar. There was a bar in Dallas, and they turned on the TV, and they put it on to Fox News, and all the patrons booed, and the they had to change the station. But the other thing regarding I showed a video in the earlier Zoom Palestine today of a city in Culverton in California, where they actually were able to use BDS tactics and get them to divest from corporations. The city council, the guy, one of the guys in the city council, have been very active with the Black Lives Matter protest, and they decided to use that energy of the community, although it's kind of a sleepy, apolitical town, but to use instead of doing a ceasefire resolution like a lot of towns have done, because they figured their town nobody would, they're just too sleepy to apolitical do it, but rather to get the city council to work on divestment of funds. So they got millions of dollars from the city's funds to divest from corporations that are complicit in the genocide. So that was amazing. Wow. Like these four really young guys. I mean, it's amazing. Young people are really pulling it off in an amazing way. Getting stuff done. It's very hopeful. Particularly young Jewish people working. So the response to Schumer was very big with J Street. Very happy about it. AIPAC not happy about it, of course. But it's made a tsunami in the whole Jewish world because Schumer was the most highest ranking politician, Jewish politician in America, and for him to come out for a ceasefire and for and calling for Netanyahu to step down and for them new elections was just truly astonishing. So I mean, there's shift, things that are moving. Of course, it took 30,000 plus Palestinians to die. Did you? And I saw Nora Freeman Barrows of the Electronic Intifada showed her week review of events, and she showed this picture. I just freaked out, of this kid who was dying of starvation. He had cystic fibrosis, and it showed this emaciated child.
Yes,
in the hospital trying to save his life, and I just started weeping.
Yeah.
I got an idea last night, Frank. You're in Paris now, right? But
yes,
I want to push this around for people in New York. Do you remember after 9/11, people stood on West Street holding signs? I was thinking of getting a few people together to do the same thing and holding signs on West Street for ceasefire and to save Palestine. I think that could be very effective because you reach a lot of people, and it's kind of a parallel statement of celebrating life, as opposed to death. And I'd like to, I'm going to make some signs. I have to figure out when is the best time to do it, and MoveOn.org has been good to help organize groups, but I might reach out to Jewish Voice for Peace. But anyhow,
and I've got some, contacts and
you've got contacts, yeah.
Ever since, I mean, when you showed up, I organized something. I don't know if you know that, Brenda. I organized a Gaza ceasefire. A kind of demonstration right next to Madison Square Garden. Not too many people showed up. Jacqui showed, and there were a few people, and we talked. We said a few mantras. And then Jacqui had to leave, and it's only when I walked out in the middle of the street and blocked traffic did people start really paying attention. And I thought, geez, you want me to? And one of the policemen, they let me do it. It's totally illegal, but the police let me do it. They came up and asked me. He said, "Why are you risking your life?" I said, "But it's a necessary risk. I'm trying to get people's attention to what's going on with the help of the United States." And it seemed like the only way people are paying any attention to me if I do something risky, which I don't really want to do.
Right, of course. But they didn't give you any trouble, right?
No, in fact, I blocked the lane, and it was like 6 o'clock, so there was lots of traffic, and but they were orderly, and people actually gave me thumbs up. Other people were spitting at me and yelling out epithets, But the police, they were around and they let me do it. They let us do when you were there, Jacqui, I wasn't supposed to be on the steps at all. We never got authorization. I never tried to get authorization because I'm always concerned about getting it denied. It's sort of a carryover from when I was in Palestine and Israel. But people say you should try to get things authorized. But then we went out in the street. People actually were very orderly. They simply were changing lanes. Some people were upset and yelling out to me and spitting and things. But for the most part, they were very supportive. Which was and the police just turned away. They ignored me. They did not, even though I was messing their traffic up, they let it happen, and they even came up to talk to me. But they're plainclothes cops, but they let it happen. So yeah, long story short, Jacqui, is I'm available. I'll be available to work with you on that. I'm in France, but I'll be back in New York in a week or so.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And I'll be back for several months because I'm working on the film, and I'll be working there. So I won't be going back to France probably until early summer.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, Frank,
yes,
what's happening with the work you were doing at the International Court? Has any of that moved at all?
Yeah, and that I'm actually going to be talking about that at my original university where I was in jail and I had to forego my last year. I was already in pre-retirement, so they were able to give me my benefits, or they were going to cut me off. But I'm going to be talking more about that. And what's happened is, to make a long story short, the two courts, of course, people are make a distinction between the International Criminal Court, right, and the International Court of Justice, right?
Right.
And the ICC is doing nothing. I mean, the prosecutor, Karim Khan, even today, is simply says a few words about threatening, saying, hey, things are getting kind of sort of in a resume of what, like in a nutshell, what he says is things are getting hot and heavy. You better watch it. He's saying to those people who are involved in committing war crimes. But he went to Rafah, as you probably know, and made a few statements, a few one-liners about, geez, you've got to bring in more humanitarian help, but didn't say anything about his obligation as a prosecutor, and has done nothing. And yet, as you know, probably it was only 1 year after Russia invaded Ukraine that Putin got an arrest warrant, whereas Israel, with its accomplices have committed war crimes, etc., since Nakba, and no arrest warrants. Nothing has happened. So my complaint, you have to, in the ICC, it's a criminal jurisdiction, so you have to put specific defendants. You can't state, right, as opposed to the International Court of Justice. So it was like Netanyahu, Lieberman, Gantz, Obama, and Trump, and now I'm going to add Biden. I mean, it's clear what he's doing is an accomplice to the war crimes, but nothing, to make a long story short, Brenda, nothing has happened. It's very unsettling because the courts, I know they're waiting to get more, but they contradicted themselves. I was in Ramallah talking with the head of El-Haq. I don't know if you're familiar with El-Haq. It's an NGO out of Ramallah. I know, Jacqui, you're familiar with El-Haq. Yeah. They do a lot of legal work for Palestine.
Israel closed them down.
They've threatened to close them down. They've gone in and taken their stuff. The Israeli
they
soldiers.
took all their computers and stuff. Yeah.
I was talking to Mr. Sarwan, the head of Al-Haq, when I was underground there, and he said he just got a letter from the ICC saying, please, pleading with him, don't send us any more evidence. We've got plenty. Please, you're inundating us with stuff.
Well,
and yet, prosecutor Karim Khan just recently said, we're still investigating. In other words, he's still checking out the evidence. It's like he's still accumulating evidence. So he's contradicting himself. And, obviously, just to conclude on that, the ICC has become way overly politicized and clearly not impartial. And but the ICJ, we see what they said. But the ICJ simply said there was plausible grounds to determine that a genocide's been committed. So Israel, stop it, sort of. and you got a month to give us an accounting, and be careful. Bring in humanitarian aid. Israel has done nothing, and over a month is later, and we haven't heard about Israel's report, and the court is supposed to respond and maybe take action after that month, and clearly Israel cannot provide information that they're complying with that decision. On the contrary, apparently they've killed more. They've even kept fewer trucks from coming in with food. They did help to approve some of the boat stuff. So that's something that they might be doing to try to comply with that court order. But the court is still doing. The court could turn around and say, you have not complied with our order. We are now going to say we are now ordering a ceasefire now. And we could also say we have evidence to show, since you have not shown us credible evidence to the contrary, we have evidence to show that you have committed genocide. So the courts, international courts, are clearly, I mean, it's a bit idealistic to think that they're going to make a decision right away, but it's clearly disappointing because they have a role to play and they could really help in this whole thing, and they're not playing that role at a very important time.
Does the United States have a representative at either the ICC or the ICJ?
Yes, they send someone there, but normally when the representative shows up, it's always taking the Israeli side. It's always, so it's like always arguing, just like Germany. Germany is like robot-like, always in favor of Israel for various reasons, right?
Yeah, well, they have the guilt thing, you know.
Yes,
wasn't it an American judge that first granted the South African, hi Alan, that it was an American judge who granted the South African request to that it looked like genocide in Gaza. It was an American judge. I don't think she's there anymore. I think they just switched judges, but the judges can be American. They don't have to follow the what the government is saying, so they can be independent.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I did know something. I did learn something about that I thought was quite interesting. I mean, I guess you could put it that way. But one of the judges, Israel has the right to appoint one of the judges on the International Court of Justice.
Yeah, he went. Yeah,
he agreed out of the 12 counts.
Yeah.
He agreed with 2, that there should be more humanitarian aid, and then something else like Israel should do what it can to prosecute those inciting genocide within Israel.
Yeah.
The Israeli judge agreed with 2 of the things, and yet, and this didn't even come out in the press, obviously, and yet, as soon as the decision was rendered, Netanyahu said, oh, it's obviously anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
As usual. But I'm thinking that's even more laughable, because one of the judges agreed with 2 of the decisions that was against Israeli's position. So that means he's an Israeli appointee, Jewish and anti-Semitic.
Right. Did you hear what South Africa announced, that it's going to arrest the any of the citizens that have dual citizenship and are fighting in Gaza with the IDF? When they come back to South Africa, they're going to get arrested.
I didn't know that. Oh, geez.
Yeah, they just.
I'm not surprised. But anyway, Alan, welcome. You remember Brenda, right?
Hi, Alan. How are you?
You remember Brenda? Brenda and
may not be able to see me.
Maybe not. Okay. Alan, can you see us? Can you see? There are, including yourself, there are 4 of us. Can you see Brenda? There's Jacqui, of course. Jacqui.
Right.
There's Brenda. Now, Brenda,
hi.
Your husband's name, I'm sorry, I'm terrible.
Bill.
Bill and Brenda. Remember we went to their house? And I think your house is in Brooklyn, right?
Right, yeah.
And we had dinner there, and we talked about the Bonhoeffer. And they helped, they contributed to the Bonhoeffer play and everything.
Right.
So I haven't been able to follow every detail coming out of Gaza, but I mean, I think I know enough to know it's a horrible, horrible situation, and I'm talking to various people. The other night, the Brooklyn Heights Association, it's a community association, hosted Kirsten Gillibrand as their guest speaker.
Yeah.
And I decided to go and hopefully
Oh, you were there. Oh, wow, good.
Yes, hopefully to have a chance to speak with her in private. Her job there was not to talk about Gaza per se. It was for other local political issues and, funding and all these different things. But I decided I would go and maybe get a chance to talk with her. Well, when I arrived, there was an enormous contingent of young people from a group called Peace Brooklyn.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Brooklyn for Peace. Yeah. Brooklyn for Peace. I'm in that group.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, I was very disturbed because they were heckling. They were outside with their placards and and I said, okay, they have the right to do that. And then I went inside, and were you there, Jacqui?
No, I didn't get there.
Well, I went inside, and then the Brooklyn Heights Association president, made a presentation, and then they did several orders of business, and then they introduced Kirsten Gillibrand. Well, as soon as she stepped to the podium, before she had even opened her mouth, the peace organization had planted people around in the audience. And one by one, they stood up and were screaming at Kirsten Gillibrand about Gaza and calling her, a murderer and a this and a that, and asking her why she had not agreed to meet with them. So I don't know the backstory. All I know is what happened that night. Wow. So I was just blown away. I'd never been in a situation where that kind of behavior was taking place. But anyway, I just waited to see what was going to happen. And finally, Ms. Gillibrand said, does the audience as a whole, do they want me to talk about Gaza? And everybody said, yes, of course, let's talk about Gaza. We need to hash this out a little bit. And then they started heckling her again. And she said, look, I'll be glad to meet with you at the end of this event, but I was invited here as a guest to speak about other issues, but I'll be glad to meet with you separately if you will agree to just let us continue our meeting as planned, and then I will meet with you afterwards. Well, they had nothing, they would not have it. They just continued to heckle her. And finally, they had to shut down the proceedings and escort these young folks out.
Jeez.
They weren't all young. A lot of them were older.
Well, whatever. But the ones who were screaming at her mostly appeared to be somewhat like 30 and under. I was absolutely appalled. I believe in free speech. I believe you should have the right to heckle or at least confront. I don't like the word heckle. Confront your representatives. But after she agreed to meet with them, I don't understand why they continued to disrupt the proceeding.
If I could just explain a little bit.
Yeah, Jacqui, what do you think? I don't know this group.
Are hysterical about Gillibrand because people have been trying to contact her for months.
Right, I understand that.
Let me just explain one reason why they're particularly angry with her.
Okay.
Her shtick in getting elected and in everything she's supposed to be doing is supposedly she's a huge advocate for women and children.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
But around the world. And 37 mothers are dying a day in Gaza. Children are being starved to death in Gaza. So people are just freaking out and particularly angry with her because they feel there's a level of hypocrisy that she is closing her eyes to the slaughter of women and children. Particularly the women can't have no place to give childbirth. The pregnancies are very difficult. There's no medical care. Children are born in unsanitary tents,
Yeah.
and stuff. The whole, actually, my friend in Gaza, his brother was the doctor in charge of those, the neonatal unit in Gaza's hospital, in Al Shifa Hospital, and they had those 37, 39 babies in incubators, and the Israelis came, and that was months ago.
Right.
It was like the second month, and they unplugged the incubators, and they told the doctors they had to leave. And his brother, who was the chief, refused to leave the babies. And he stayed there. He was abused, threatened, blah, blah, blah. And he snuck the babies out, got them actually out. Two or three, four of them died. Yeah. So, so I think that people are losing it, the idea of, of normal decorum. And I agree with you. It's very rude and impolite to what happened to her. But the emotional mindset of particularly young women is, they just can't find any other way of dealing with these politicians but to harass them. And that's what got Schumer to change his mind, because people harassed him for months, protests in front of his building and in front of his house. And I think, my personality is to, I find that important. I agree with your point of view. But I think that the circumstances in history sometimes are that you can't play nice, that you have to make statements and you have to call people out. I feel badly about what happened, but, I can understand because, as I said, I'm in that group, Brooklyn for Peace, and I know the strong feelings people have to young people,
right.
Because it's their futures. Look, the world is going to change for the worse in the next 50 years if this doesn't end and things don't change.
Right.
We're going to be dead.
Oh, I think you agree with that.
Young people forget.
Yeah, and I think it's going to link to all this, because the theme of today was this recent killing by this disabled, deaf and dumb man who was holding his hands out to save him, to plead for his life, and an Israeli soldier got it on his body cam. So we've got this pretty precise proof, and it's coming out now. This took place on November 6th. And then they literally celebrated. And so this is disturbing because, as being, Jewish, knowing that Jewish ethics of humanitarian principles, heartfelt culture, close to the people, where's the mitzvah here? And I'm thinking there's something more to it. And I think it has something to do with a lot of the brainwashing going on. And we're subject to it too in the United States and in Europe, but it's so severe and so methodical. It literally is turning us into kind of demonic kind of robots a little bit. And so I wanted to address this, what just happened. And I wanted to link it to other things, not to justify what the soldiers are doing, but to try and understand. It's mind-boggling what's going on. Now, the international rule is, it's called the doctrine of double effect. That is to say, acts that are otherwise wrong are acceptable if the unintended side effect of it is permissible in the extent that there's an urgency. It's a military emergency, as long as the benefits outweighs the harm.
Outweighs, yes.
And that's the proportionality theory that's also a very part of international law. It's very hard to see, under the circumstances we're living through today, have had any type of reasonable belief that the military benefits outweigh the harms to the civilians. So then you ask yourself, well, then are these killings, and the Israeli soldiers and police have a long history of extrajudicial killings. Is this a manifestation of the idea of really that they really have the intent to commit genocide, to get rid of the Gazan people? Or is it more to it than that? So, well, if we look at some of the leaders, they actually have verbalized genocide. They haven't even been secretive about it, genocidal intent, such as Gallant, the defense minister, saying we are fighting human animals and will act accordingly. But then even Benjamin Netanyahu cited scripture. And he said, look, remember what Amalek did to you? He's quoting scripture. Now go and smite Amalek, kill both men and women and infants. And then we had a member, I can't remember his name, of cabinet, he was suspended for a while, but I'm sure he's back in the Likud cabinet, saying that, I really think the best solution is to drop an atomic bomb on Gaza. At least that's a very important option. He's saying. Then we have Yitzhak Crozier, member of Knesset, who's not a member of Likud, but a member of the Jewish National Front Party. I think that they do support Likud. Said we need to flatten Gaza. The only sentence for all of them is death. So there are many others where members of government have articulated a desire, a genocidal desire. So we see the intent behind it. They're not even hiding this intent. So let's go even what happened after 6th of October. Remember what happened in the Jabalia refugee camp. Now, the Israeli military said, we are going after Ibrahim Biari, who was apparently very fundamental to the November 7th attack, the October 7th massacre. And it was really, there were there's a lot of fake news about it, but the Hamas did commit atrocities and then let the door open for other members, Gazans, to come in that weren't members of Hamas, and there were atrocities committed. A lot of them are false, but some it's clear this is what happened. Now, so to get Biari, however, the Israeli Air Force bombed and pretty well destroyed the entire refugee camp and killed about 126 civilians and injured umpteen. Can you say that to get one person justified the killing of 126 civilians? So then there's another approach, trying to find out what the mindset is what's going on here. Now they are saying that the Israeli government is using starvation as a weapon of war. Could this also be another linked to genocide as well? Because there was that massacre, February 29th. Remember when several hundreds, of Palestinians are starving. That's the mindset. They're starving and dehydrated, and the trucks came with flour. So they were grabbing boxes off the trucks, and then the Israeli soldiers opened fire. Now the Israeli government said, well, okay, there were over 100 people that died and many injured, but it wasn't caused by us. We were literally noticing that they were getting close to our tanks, and we felt threatened, so we were only shooting above their heads to warn them. But the head of the hospital that received these people that were victim of these shootings that took place when they were trying to grab food off the truck, his name, let's see, it escapes me. He was the head of the hospital there, the Shifra hospital, said that there were 80%. There were about 176 people that were brought in after that, and 80% of them had bullet wounds, and the rest of them looked like they'd been trampled. So there was stampede issues. So what the Israeli government said was another bold-faced lie. So in any case, it was Mohammed Salha, the head of Al-Awad Hospital, who said that. So then you have several journalists who were there on the scene saying, look, what really happened was the people started stampeding after the Israeli soldiers started shooting. And the tanks then advanced and ran over many of the dead and injured bodies. And then the Israeli military tried to pin it on the crowd stampede, which didn't fly. Then when they were pushed, then the Israeli military said, but we were threatened. And the question now arises is, because they never explained how they were threatened. And this starving crowd of Palestinians moving toward tanks, fully armed Israeli soldiers are being threatened by starving, debilitated people just looking for flour. So the OHCHR office has said there were at least 14 incidences since the middle of January to the end of February where Gazans were seeking aid from the trucks and they were being shot at. So, and then just recently, maybe a couple of days ago, 20 people were killed and 100 injured by helicopter and tanks that they were simply trying to grab stuff off of trucks. And so,
right, 30 more today.
And there's more. See, I didn't even
30
see
more
that.
today.
And so let's ask the question then. Is this it's a weapon of war? It is a war crime to starve people that you're occupying and so forth. It's true, but it could be also a strategy to make people, debilitate them, to pressure them to surrender, or is this linked to the overall genocide accusation that we've seen? Now let's take a step back. Do you remember? And I was there in Hebron when this happened. I was organizing a demonstration in the old city of Hebron when the same day, and I canceled my demonstration. There were two Palestinians who attacked a soldier with a knife and superficially injured him, the Israeli soldier. And immediately the two Palestinians were shot. One died immediately. The other lay on the ground with his head moving, so he was injured. And an Israeli soldier came, took out his gun, and executed him. And the guy's name who was executed, his name was Sharif, and the Israeli soldier was, his name was El-Or Azariah. Now this was all done on a video. It was actually a B'Tselem. It took a video, so the Israeli government could not deny it like they always do. And literally, this man was prosecuted, and for manslaughter and condemned for manslaughter. He had a 14-month sentence and was released after 10 months. Now, these are just some examples of where there's been extrajudicial shooting by a human being of another human being who's completely defenseless. Is this because they are being very much brainwashed from the very beginning that Palestinians, and we hear it in their language sometimes, Palestinians aren't even human, and everyone is potentially a terrorist. Everything they do is a terrorist. And therefore, and this is one of Azariah's, the Israeli soldier's comments when he was asked, "Did you feel threatened by this man who was wreathing in pain on the ground, bloody?" And he said, "Yes. Well, he could have had bombs on his belt that he could have triggered." Well, that was poo-pooed by the court. It was not self-defense, and there were no bombs there, and there was no evidence to that effect. However, is it that these soldiers also are trained to think that at any given time, even a youngster is a threat to them, and they are trained to kill and ask questions later? That's the way they're trained, and they're also trained to think these are not humans. They will kill you. They'll be friendly to you. If you let them go, they'll turn around when you turn your back and simply kill you. They won't thank you for sparing their lives. They're animals, and they're all terrorist oriented. And I think, and I'm just asking the question that we can hopefully discuss this, what's really going on here. Now let's look at just another incident, and it was called Black Monday, 2018, when several people were protesting in Gaza against the relocation of the American embassy. And the Israeli military opened up and killed 52 protesters, wounding over 2,000. And everyone assumed in the world, especially in Israel, well, they must have been storming the fence. And even the papers picked it up and said, well, we assume they were storming the fence. It turns out that there was not one single photo showing that any of the Palestinians were storming the fence between Gaza and Israel. And it was all just assumed. They have a terrorist mentality. They must have been storming the fence, threatening our security. So therefore, the soldiers logically opened fire. The highlight of this event, however, or the infamous highlight, was when a 21-year-old female paramedic, Razan El-Najjar, was shot trying to saving the life of a wounded demonstrator. And it's clear on her vest, it said press, and she was simply trying to help this wounded demonstrator and was not storming any fence and not even part of the demonstration, and yet they killed her. The question is, okay, this happened. Was there an outcry? Was there anything in the press about it? There was very little in the press. There was one article by Amira Hass in Haaretz, and that's it. But still, later on, there was a great outcry. It became part of the press. And so the brainwashers realized they're going to have to respond now to why they killed that lady, just helping out that press. Remember the press, helping out that wounded demonstrator. And they said, well, she was hit by a ricochet of a bullet that had hit the ground far from her. And this was such a blatant lie that even the army liar was ashamed of it later. But it just gives you an idea of how people can be in denial and how obviously the news is being manipulated. And that's all part of the brainwashing. Now, another thing is people can say, and we might be taking it out of order, that what happened on October 7th, it's about revenge. Because, there were atrocities that Hamas committed for sure, but what does they were humiliated. The Israeli army was completely humiliated. And they said, what do? You take out your frustration against the easiest target. And who are they? Palestinian civilians, it's particular women and children. So that's the revenge ethic, whether it's good or bad, we'll discuss it. And finally, what about the myth of protecting Israel against another Holocaust? And this is used all the time. The myth is Israel is constantly in response to the Holocaust. Whatever the IDF is doing is simply to prevent another Holocaust from happening. But if you talk with Holocaust survivors, they'll tell us, those that are not pulled into Zionism, they'll say, and many of them are not pulled into Zionism, they're far more realistic to realize that Zionism is dangerous. It's like Nazism, and obviously they have a personal anathema toward Nazism. If you ask a Holocaust survivor, they'll say a militarized state, what Israel is doing now is absurd. Because the answer to the Holocaust is not violence and killing and brainwashing. It's tolerance, education, and humanity. So, and a former soldier who said there's apart from this brainwashing is also at an early age, and of course you can say this for all sides, including ourselves, is this idea of racism that we've talked about. This idea that it's almost organic with Israeli Jews that Palestinians are not really human beings, and that we can see even in Hebron where I was, and we've seen these incidences where the soldiers walk around and they chase the kids, they shoot at them, they laugh at it, and they even laugh at making women undress, which is especially in a Muslim community, it could affect her for the rest of her life, and they laugh at that. I remember when I was participating in a demonstration at Kalandia, and I had this Palestinian flag to use. They used me as target practice. They shot tear gas canisters and they hit the flag about a foot away from my head and made a big. I've got a hole of the flag, and I've shown it sometimes. And a member of Reuters, one of the journalists, looked at me and said, "Look at them over there. They're all laughing. They're having fun." I said, "But if they hit my head." There's many incidences where people have been killed by tear gas canisters or have had brain damage for the rest of their lives, and that didn't seem to bother them. They're having fun. They're saying, well, they're enjoying it. It's like entertainment, because I am obviously helping the terrorist. I must be a terrorist too, and therefore expendable to them. So finally, I'd love to hear more. I want to hear from you now, in particular. What's the solution? Is to create a Palestinian state brought forward. And why is this? Because Hamas is saying we've got to fight the occupation, we've got to fight this blockade. But if the Palestinians have their state, their arguments would be nonsense. No one's going to support Hamas, or very few people, that type of rhetoric, because there's no need to. And on the other side, the fanatic Zionists are saying, we are killing Palestinians because we're in self-defense, because they're attacking us. Well, the Palestinians will be focusing on their own country. They're not going to be, there's always going to be fanatics on both sides attacking each other. We have them in the States, we have them in Europe. But for the most part, the fanatic Zionists like Jaffer and all these far-right pro-settler fanatics are going to be saying, we've got to fight the Palestinians, we've got to, but their arguments will be nonsense too, because there would be no reason to, because the Palestinians are focusing on their state and the Israeli will have their state. So finally, I'm thinking, well, maybe at the end of the day, then we could share this desire to work together with a sincere desire, because I think there's a lack of sincerity for this solution, which I think is an important solution, so that we can all live in peace and harmony. Anyway, that's sort of what I wanted to go over today. That's a lot of stuff. What's your take on all this? I don't know really for sure. What's your take on all this? These atrocities on both sides, actually, but I focused on what's happening in particular in Gaza right now. But and the brainwashing, the extrajudicial killings, and so forth. And especially with respect to this deaf and dumb man who is absolutely no threat to the military. What's your take?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. And I think it goes back to my earlier, when I was talking about what happened at the meeting with Senator Gillibrand. I like to sort of paraphrase Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And, she said, yes, stand up for what you believe is right. But when you do so, you have to do it in a way that brings the other side around to your viewpoint and not to alienate them. So to the extent that we commit violence against the very people that we need to get support from, we are alienating them. And that goes for everybody, not just the combatant parties, but to all of the other people who are discussing it, trying to sort it out, trying to work for agreements, all of these things. If we commit violence against each other, then, we're not going to make any progress whatsoever. So attacking a person violently, and I don't mean physical violence, but also verbal violence, is not going to bring that person to your side or even open their mind to understanding. So that I feel is a lot of what's happening. And to go back to one of our founding myths, when, I don't know if you guys remember the song America the Beautiful. The second stanza of America the Beautiful has a very important statement in it. It says, confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. So to me, what is happening, not only by the combatant parties, but by everyone else who's discussing and working and whatever, is that people don't have self-control, that they let their emotions carry them away and they let their emotions govern their actions. And that's, to me, a great part of the problem is before we can bring peace, we have to have we have to be peaceful in ourselves, and we have to have peaceful interactions with other people. Even if they have wronged us, and even if we're angry, we have to control ourselves enough to open the dialogue, to listen, to understand where the other person's coming from. So anyway, those are my thoughts. As for the practical fallout from that, like how to arrange a solution, I don't know. And because as long as people are still shouting and screaming at each other, I don't see how anything can happen. It just keeps things stirred up. It's just a way of like stirring the muddy waters over and over and over again. It's a trauma. It's a continual trauma, even for people of goodwill. So maybe it's a little
shouting and screaming is one thing, but these people are getting shot and starved to death. I mean, that's to me the fact that our leaders, who I respect greatly, can know that children are being starved to death. It just makes me cry, and
yeah, me too.
Children, and I know that I'm powerless to do anything. I can yell and scream all I want, and no, it's not going to make any difference. And I think that's the frustrating thing, is that the powers as be, and particularly in Israel, the propaganda, because I've spent a lot of time around the area, and I know how many Israelis, not all, but many, are so propagandized from youth to not, they're the chosen people and everybody else is inferior. Okay, so that gives them the right, according to the Bible as they read it, to do whatever they want to anybody else who's not one of them. And this attitude creates the mindset in these soldiers to be violent, and they're getting away with it because the government, advocates greater Israel.
Yes, yes.
So therefore, they want to even take over Jordan, Iraq, go from river to river, from the Mediterranean to the Tigris Euphrates. So you're dealing with a fanatical mentality, and it's really a mass psychosis.
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't know, I don't know what, I just think it needs a spiritual awakening, where the Bible says, turn the hearts of stone into hearts of flesh. And I believe the arts have a great power to do that. They're probably the only way to reach people. By the way, Fareed just published another book of poetry, a friend of ours, his third book of poetry, which is all about Gaza. And I see now, if you looked at the Oscars, many of the people in attendance wore the pin for the ceasefire.
Yes.
So I think that things are changing. The problem is governments will continue to do what they're doing as long as they get away with it. And that's why Schumer made the roundabout, because people, pressured him. Israel, I don't know. I think the only way it can stop in Israel is the United States to stop arming Israel. And I saw Al Jazeera had a documentary today on Christian fundamentalism and the evangelicals. It was terrifying. I mean, I hate to think about them.
You mean here in this country?
Oh,
in this country, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
But they're also in Israel too. Actually, my cousin,
yes.
the Jewish rabbi, leader of the Jews for Jesus there, and he's nuts. I mean, he sees all Muslims should be destroyed. They're all demonic, and it's Israel's right to just kill off all the Palestinians and take over the land. I mean, this is the thinking. So I don't know how. I don't think with some of these people, you can't change them. It's like people who are psychotic, violent killers. You can't maybe stop them wanting to kill, but you can take the weapons away from them from doing it and put them in a situation that they can't do it. I think with Israel, I think it would take like 1,000 years. I mean, God was always yelling at the Israelites for their bad behavior.
Yes.
And if even God couldn't get them to stop, I don't know what chance we have.
But you said something important, both of you, Brenda and Jacqui, and maybe Alan, we can hear from you. But you sort of, both of you are different ways are kind of answering a bit some of the questions that I had about this psychosis, and then how we react. When we react to try to communicate, instead of trying to communicate, we're acting emotionally and we're just letting off steam, and that's flaming arguments and inflaming them, and becomes a vicious cycle, one after another. But that psychosis, I think, I'm just trying to understand, how could this soldier, the one killing that deaf and dumb man, and then leave and then brag about it to other soldiers? These are not monsters. These are kids raised in a Jewish tradition that theoretically, like you say, are humanitarian oriented, but they're so indoctrinated into, and like you say, a sort of to a psychosis level of really believing that we're talking about human animals that are capable, even this deaf and dumb man, of turning around and triggering some type of a bomb or killing us, and that they were literally slapping him on his back and saying, we have all the respect for you for killing this unarmed, defenseless man. It's not an act of bravery, but I think it goes to a psychosis level that it's gotten with the brainwashing and so forth, and about that one soldier killing the other defenseless Palestinian on the ground, and then being held on the backs of people when he went to his village as if he was a hero. It was a courageous act. I'm thinking, no, it's a psychosis. It's blinding us terribly to what's really happening. And then we get to Brenda, and I think that's so appropriate, Jacqui, what you said. And then we get to Brenda. Then when we're trying to communicate, it's like one emotion against another, and we're not really like former Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg saying, okay, but try to make it so that the other person can understand what you're saying, that you can really, but that seemed to be cut off. The desire to communicate, it's more the desire to impose my views and let off steam, and that's triggering a vicious cycle of disputes and more emotion, as opposed to finding some type of a common ground.
Yeah.
And communicating. What do you think about all that, Alan? And Darnell, I'm sorry, you must have been, I didn't notice that you were trying to get in. I let you in later on. I think I was in the middle of a talk, but please feel free to also share with us your views. So Alan, where are you on this? Tell us what you think, or anything.
Well, let Darnell speak. I'm listening, and
okay.
Eventually my super in the building has to see me about something.
Okay.
But I'm taking all this in, and okay. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I like to go back to the very good point. I like very much to go back to the very good point to Brenda make about no self-control. I think this is the problem. You've heard me say this over and over again, that we've kind of got a leg in the brave new world. No one has any self-control anymore. People are being manipulated. They're being manipulated by the media. And I think in Israel, what I'm learning, the same thing is happening there as people being manipulated today. And that's the big problem. That's one of the big problems. And I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you. I'm just listening to what you think the answers are, and maybe you can come up with something. Okay.
I don't know what they are either. Just kind of trying to understand what's going on. And then we can come to an idea of focusing on, the self-control. You're not saying, Brenda, right, and Alan, that means you've got to be stoic and not let your emotion out. Yes, you can let your emotion out at an appropriate time to express yourself without making it a desire to let steam off and to dominate and just to yell and scream to let off steam, because then that's a unilateral. That's not bringing people together. And so I think you can be emotional, and it can be and be not necessarily stoically under control. Let the emotion out. There's a lot of, I think, intelligence in our emotion. As long as we're in good faith about trying to reach other people and communicate with them. I think that those are all good emotion. That's not being stoic and simply reeling in our emotion. I think it's spreading out positive emotion. I think negative emotion is being spread out through the brainwashing, and that's stopping everything up, and they're making us feel like we're right, they're wrong, we're the chosen ones, they're the devilish types, and we're this, we're that. But now, Darnell, you've joined us later, and maybe you've kind of clocked off because I didn't see you earlier. I'm not sure how long you were trying to get on. Are you still with us? If not, come in whenever you feel like it.
Frank, I think that you can make a distinction between a tantrum and just anger.
Yes,
tantrum is a 2-year-old out of control, just screaming because they want their way, no matter what. And just anger. I just did a thing, wrote a little piece on Jesus and the anger in the scriptures. And biblical anger is awesome. The anger, the prophets, Jeremiah, Elijah, I mean, they were very angry very often, and they pissed people off. That's why they got killed off. But Jeremiah, was not a popular guy because he was very angry at the corrupt leaders and the people. So I think that there's a way of expressing just anger without losing it, without having a tantrum. But I think that's difficult, though. That's where control comes in. And that's where we have to not look at our opponent as the other.
Right.
But see them as someone that dialogue is possible with persistence and with love. That's why, love your enemies. That was in the Old Testament as well as what Jesus said, love your enemies, because you create a vibration, an unconscious psychic vibration that somehow can provide a bridge for dialogue and transformation. But it's very tough. When people are screaming, I know at the AIPAC rally, when we went a couple of weeks ago, there was a group of pro-Israeli people on the corner screaming at us and calling us every horrible name imaginable. And it was almost sad, and we were saying, listen, this doesn't make Israel look good when you use that kind of language. Let's talk. And of course, there were people in the protest group screaming as well, so, but it's difficult when people are starving and being killed unjustly. And, with all of this, it's difficult to not let, to control your emotions of outrages and anger, and it's not easy.
And to stay positive. I mean, it's hard not to get depressed. And I think, well, when I get depressed, I'm kind of roll into myself and go, throw my hands up in the air and say, I feel so useless, because before I could drop of a dime, I could go into Israel and Palestine, is what I did, when they took over the Al-Aqsa Mosque and they put in cameras and they put metal detectors out in front. I was able to leave the next day and demonstrate peacefully and then pray with the Muslims in front until they took all that stuff away 5 days later. Now I can't get in. Obviously, I've been deported from Israel and Palestine, but I can't get into Gaza either. I've tried to get in. And so, it's frustrating because I'm a guy, I'm a field guy. I got to be in the field to really feel effective. But these discussions are important because we're helping each other understand what's going on and maybe influencing others to make a change. It's not useless what we're doing. It's very frustrating, and I'm trying to fight depression sometimes over it, because the Palestinians don't want my tears and they don't want my depression. They want us to do something to help them.
Yeah, they want action.
Action, and I see these people on TV crying and going on, and I hate to say it, but the tears, not necessarily crocodile tears, but the tears they're not really for the Palestinians. I think it's for themselves, kind of like a relief, because we got to think, and so that helps me get back on track.
Yeah. I like to do what I call the pullback of the camera. How when you're watching a film and it's like you see somebody's face and then the camera pulls back and then you see everything around. Well, when I pull my camera back, I try to see the bigger picture. And I think there are so many nasty things that are going on in the world. You've got Sudan, you've got Southern Lebanon, you've got
Syria,
Ukraine, you've got Syria, you've got stuff in the Far East. You've got, drug cartels doing stuff all over South America. And yet
Haiti, We've got
Yeah,
Haiti.
Haiti, right. It's like
we've got
every
higher
morning,
crime rate in New York
right.
coming
You
in
open
back
up
in.
your news in the morning and you're just
Yeah.
bombarded with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And yet we criticize our leaders for not doing anything when in truth, they are as helpless as we are.
Yeah.
They're fumbling around in the dark, trying to find solutions, trying to find ways to bring these warring parties together. But they're confronted with the same mystery that we are. Is like, what is motivating these people? Why can't they calm down and try to see what the other side is saying? But they too are prisoners of their emotions and their anger and their frustration and all of these things. So they had this thing in Michigan, last week where the whole Arab American community was all up in arms about Gaza, and they're not going to vote for Biden and all of this. And I'm like,
Arab Americans. It was a lot of people. It wasn't.
I know, but they were the ones who spearheaded it, and then everybody else piled on, which is great. I mean, they need to do what they have to do. But my thought again was, okay, so you're not going to vote for Biden. How is that helping your situation?
Right.
If anything, you should be trying to meet more with Biden or meet with your own representatives and try to bring some discussion, try to persuade people to come to your side or to at least meet you halfway. But just, standing up and declaring, I'm not voting for Biden because of Gaza. Well, I mean, I was just appalled at that. Like, it's not the way it's not the way to go about things. That's not how the world works.
Well, my friend Karima, who's Christian from an ancient family in Gaza.
Yes.
She lost when they bombed church, St. Porphyro's Church, one of the oldest Christian churches in the world. Mm-hmm. She lost over 20 of her family members. There were 3,000 Christians in Gaza. Now there's about 600 left. So, these are people who feel so disappointed in Biden and his, 30,000 dead people. A lot of whom are their relatives. That's why they felt they couldn't vote for him, because of what he's done to their families.
But here's the thing. I see what you're saying, and I totally agree. It's angering, it's frustrating, it's enraging. I want to pull out my hair, chew on nails, But I don't understand the wisdom of focusing all of our anger and frustration on one person. Because Biden, yes, he can do some things. He can do some things, but he can't do everything. He has to have all of his people around him in agreement. He has to pull together resources. He has to discuss with all of these people what can be done, what's feasible to be done.
By executive order, he ordered, when Congress wouldn't vote for military aid to Israel, he went against Congress and used executive order, I think 3 or 4 times, to send arms to Israel. So that's why they're pissed at him,
Right. I understand the being pissed at him. What I'm saying is the yelling and screaming and, calling him a baby killer and, all of this is not productive. Yeah. It's just not.
Yeah. I think, I agree. And you're actually helping me, Brenda and Jacqui as well, to see what's really going on. Because I was one of those people saying, look, how can I vote for an accomplice to war crimes? But what Jacqui says, however, is something that's so important, that leaders, just like when I'm not in favor too much of completely of Roosevelt, when he against what his constituents said, you've got to nationalize all the banks during the Depression. It's a mess. You've got to pull us out. and even his constituents. It was early on in his administration, and he was about to be impeached over the fact he refused to do it, but he said, look, I'm going to start the FDIC, I'm going to help the banks. And even though what he said was completely unpopular, it was the right thing to do. And I think maybe what I'm hearing you say, Jacqui, is with an executive order, the president knows in his heart of hearts, and it was the evidence he has before him, in spite of his entourage, what the right thing to do. He's got the knowledge, he's got now to have the courage to even risk his entire career to do the right thing when he has the power to do it. With an executive order, he could stop today all arms and every dime of our taxpayers' money going to Israel. Now, that could be subject to legislation that he could veto, but that could happen. He has the power to do it. But what I think maybe you're addressing, Jacqui, and we've got to do it, and not in a yelling way, in a determinative way to get to Biden, to get him to do the right thing, as opposed to insulting him, because that's going to, alienate him. To do what you can do with the power you have today, and have the confidence. See, Biden is getting millions of dollars from AIPAC and the Zionist contributors and many other politicians, and have the confidence that by doing the right thing and with your charisma and your ability to convince the people that you'll be elected, and you'll be elected in spite of all the money you're depriving yourself of. The Zionists will not send you because you have made this executive orders requiring a ceasefire and if no ceasefire and not bringing in more humanitarian trucks, you're not going to provide any more money and no arms to Israel that you could do right away. But this is a problem I think we've all been addressing. Even in Europe, we have a problem. We have a leadership void here.
Exactly.
We need leaders that are intelligent, principled, and got the guts to do these things, even to risk their career to do the right thing. It doesn't seem like people in power now are willing to take it to that level. They want the money and the power, nourished by their greed, and it's baffling. And that they're not stepping up and making decisions that they could at the risk of this losing the money and the power. But maybe that might be simplifying things, but isn't that part of it?
Well, I feel that many people, and I don't know how well informed you guys are about some issues. You're obviously well informed about a number of issues, thank goodness. But I've talked to a lot of people in the past few months, and I'm blown away by how many people don't understand the whole history of the US and Israel's role in the Middle East as a counterbalance to the former Soviet Union and the current Russian regime, and how that plays out vis-a-vis all the other countries in the Middle East. So, America is never, ever, ever going to abandon Israel, because Israel plays a role there that we want and need. So how do we exercise what they used to call the carrot and the stick? How do we lead Israel to do what we want it to do? And at the don't that is the classic conundrum of international relations and foreign policy. So where do we go from there? I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I just feel that all the negativity in our own country about politics has got to calm down, and we've got to focus on practical solutions rather than emotional solutions or emotional outrage.
No, you're right. We have to consider, because I do know the history,
yes,
but I could know more. There's a lot more I don't know. I know about the counterbalancing Russia and the importance of Israel, not just in the Middle East to be an ally of the United States with respect to the Arab countries, but also in the whole
And to Iran,
power
by the
balance
way.
with Russia, yes,
Yes.
and also why we maintain our relationship with Egypt and other countries. If we didn't, they would be in the Russia's gardens.
That's
and
right.
That's important. You're right.
They would be swallowed up. And now Iran.
Yeah.
Do you know about the USS Liberty?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Say that again.
USS Liberty. Yes.
While America
I don't know all the
had
details.
a
I don't know.
ship,
Yeah.
my cousin was on that. Was supposed to be on that ship. He was at a training session. The guy who replaced him got killed. He was an officer on the USS Liberty, which was an intelligence ship. And while they were supposedly spying to see what the Russians were doing, the Israelis were starting the war against in the Golan Heights, and they didn't want America to know that they had broken the peace, and so they tried to get rid of the USS Liberty so that America wouldn't find out in 1967. So Israel is an ally on one hand, but not always. And presidents like Eisenhower and many other presidents had issues with Israel. Israel's not always our friend, and they're not the only democracy in the Middle East. They're not a democracy, first of all, because the Palestinians are second-class citizens. Jordan actually is more of a democracy than Israel is. So I always laugh when they say democracy is the only, Israel's the only democracy. But I don't know if using Israel as a tool of American domination is necessarily a good thing. I mean, it's certainly been part of our foreign policy, but I'm not so sure that's really it should be something in for the future of our country, because we've just gotten so much trouble in so many parts of the world when we try to control these situations, and it just never works out.
But yes, and we need that strength. What you're both alluding to, and it's true. We need to take that step back and analyze things. For instance, I mean, when Biden was giving the money and loosening up the money and the purse strings into Israel and the weapons, but on the condition, Biden was saying, kind of I hate to say it, kind of in a weak, kind of a whimpering way, but maybe it's also he's got to be careful how he approaches Israel because of their importance to us, is saying, well, be careful of the civilians. Now, I kind of drastically, and maybe I'm wrong about this, saying it's very similar. This type of appeasing was very similar to what Chamberlain tried to do with Hitler in the Sudetenland, when Hitler took Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia, and then Chamberlain goes and negotiates with Hitler, saying, look, okay, you can keep the Sudetenland if you promise not to take any more European land. And then Chamberlain goes back to England to celebrate peace with Hitler. And then Hitler immediately takes the rest of Czechoslovakia, invades Poland, and then we're at war. Israel takes the money from us, from the United States, and the weapons, and seems to scoff kind of at us.
Yeah, they thumb their nose at us. Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
And let's not get emotional. You're right about this and get all inflamed, but as Jacqui said, are they really an ally? They seem to be controlling us in very many ways and for their own benefit. And is it really for our benefit? Many former members of the State Department and leaders are saying, really, I'm not sure if I agree with them, but they're actually saying our allyship, our allying with Israel to this extent is actually not even a benefit. It's a negative thing to us. But then when you look at the whole, you have to look at the other picture of the balance of power with Russia to really make that assessment, and not make that assessment in an isolated way.
That's right. That's right. And I think that so many people, they get sort of tunnel vision. They want one thing. It's like a one issue voter. I'm not going to vote for X because of this issue. Well, there are more issues that have to be concerned. We don't all get our candy. And I always feel like the people that are yelling and screaming, hi Darnell.
Well, listen, don't interrupt because of me.
No. Just wanted to say hi.
Yeah, hi, and thanks for joining us. And please let us know what you think, about all this. And you definitely don't have to be in agreement with any of this. But what do you think about it?
I don't think, listen, as far as agreement is concerned, I can't imagine anything being said that I wouldn't agree with. I'd have to be in the wrong place, However, no, continue, please.
Okay, did you have anything more to add to that, Brenda, then? And then please come in anytime you want, Darnell, really.
Well,
Okay.
I was just to tidy up that thought, I was thinking, everybody is a one issue. When there are so many issues that our administration has to be dealing with right now, that we all can't expect that our cookie is the one that's going to make, that this one's going to make the cut, so to speak.
Make the cookie jar.
Make the cookie jar, whatever, or make it out of the cookie jar into our hand.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. We don't always get what we want. Even my mother used to say, I prayed to God, to bring me, to let Santa Claus bring me a doll for Christmas. And I didn't get the doll, so God didn't answer me. And my mother said, yes, he did answer you. He said no.
Oh.
So, we want things, and then when we're told no, or maybe, or you have to wait, we go crazy. We pitch the tantrum. So I'm a more long view, take the long view.
Yeah.
And I realize people are dying, but people are dying every day, everywhere, not just in Gaza. So yes, my heart aches, it's cracking, I'm furious, I'm angry, I'm all of these things. But I just feel like that I still have this particle of trust in me that it will somehow work out. And yes, many people are going to lose their lives or lose their livelihood or be, maimed for the rest of their lives or, have their total lives disrupted. But such is the way of the world.
Yeah.
How many people in all these other places are having those same things happen to them? And it's not even being covered by the press.
Right. And Darnell,
how often do you read about what's happening in Sudan compared to?
If you look at Al Jazeera every day.
Yes. But my point is only this, that the press jumps on what is the current nasty situation. And then as soon as things calm down even slightly, they move on to the next money-making project. So we have to continue to work, but to do it with steadiness and resolve, but without anger and recrimination.
Yeah, yes. Now, Darnell, I see in your background African-American soldiers. Is there a reason why, fill us in, why you've got that?
Do you see the white GI in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, to his left is me.
Oh, wow, okay.
And to his left, okay,
I see you, yes.
Yeah, and I'm chairing a meeting of the Post-Racial Harmony Council at Fort Carson. And
where is that, Darnell?
In Colorado.
In Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother lives in Colorado. Yeah.
Colorado Springs. And so it's a long story. In fact, to tell that story is longer than we have time. But suffice it to say, the military was in a crisis because of the actually, I have to go to Heidelberg to talk to at a forum on Tuesday about the plight of Black soldiers, or how it was for Black soldiers in the military in Germany, and
At what period, Darnell, are you referring to?
Shit, from 1776.
No, but I mean, when you say in Germany, what did
Oh.
you mean by that?
Oh,
Yeah.
what do you mean? When I was there? When was I there? You're asking? This is the 60s. I got there in 67.
Okay. The reason I asked, my husband served in the army in Germany.
Mhm.
I'm thinking it had to be around that period.
Mhm.
And he was an acting sergeant, and he had a lot of guys in his group, I guess it would be a platoon, maybe?
Well,
Is
yeah.
that-
Well, that's a designation for a unit in the infantry or
Right. Well, he was infantry. He
poor
was on
man.
he was on a NATO assignment. It was not during wartime. He was
Uh-huh.
not. There was no open conflict, but he
Right.
was on a NATO assignment driving munitions through the Folder Gap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he had a number of Black soldiers that he worked with directly and that he became close friends with.
Mhm. Mhm.
And some of them that he still, communicates with today. So I think his time of service might have overlapped or been part of the same time you were there.
Yeah, well, I went into the military in 1966,
Mm-hmm.
and I did 4 years.
Okay.
And
You might have
were
been
you
just a
stationed?
tad ahead of it.
You were stationed in Germany then, Darnell?
Yes, I was.
Okay,
but
yes.
My
Were
first.
you at
Go on.
Kaiserslautern?
Oh, K-Town, of course. In
I-
fact,
I spent the Christmas holiday of 1969 in a barracks in Kaiserslautern.
poor woman, Jesus.
With two of my girlfriends. We were studying French in France, and one of them's fiance was posted at Kaiserslautern.
Mhm.
And he said, "Oh, bring you and your girlfriends over and we'll do Christmas and have celebration together."
Well, yeah, I'm going to have to report you.
Okay.
You didn't have authorization. No.
Oh no, we did. We
Oh.
were guests of his unit, and they put us up in a special little barracks or whatever. One of my very fond memories.
But it's interesting, Darnell, that you're going back and you're still active
Yes.
with this. I want to hear a lot about this, but I have my friends. I talk to them all the time because I lived I was deported from Palestine. I was in jail in Palestine and in Israel, but a lot of the African Americans I've experienced with relate a lot to the Palestinians.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
I can
of course.
imagine they would. Yes.
Big time. And they when I went to a demonstration not long ago in New York, I'm in France now, but I'll be going back to New York very soon. Many of the leaders were African American of this, and it was a pro ceasefire Gaza, pro Palestinian, not necessarily anti-Israel, but we know a ceasefire, and many of the leaders were African American, and they really related to it, what was happening in our country and what's happened in our country, what's continuing to happen in our country. And what is your take? I mean, we haven't heard much from you about this situation. I mean, you said you pretty much agreed with it, but you don't have to. I mean, there might be some things you don't agree with, but did you have some insight on this and anything you want to share with us?
What's interesting,
Yeah.
I've just eaten dinner
Mhm.
with a friend of mine who told me a story about, hey, gee, when was that with the police? When they wouldn't allow you to pass out the leaflets?
It was last Saturday.
Okay, so last Saturday, well, I'm talking to him before last Saturday, but he tells me he's passing out leaflets, criticizing Israel. And the police stepped in and forbid him to pass out the literature. This is where we're at. I mean, essentially, the same thing is happening in America, but in another way.
Yes.
And so the situation here is very repressive as far as I'm concerned. and it's strangely reminiscent of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
How quickly they've enacted these draconian rules, and it's crazy. You can't say free Palestine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, but I'll say it, you know, I'll say it no matter what. But,
Yes, yes.
you know, but there's so many things happening. I mean, the fiasco in Georgia, you know, with Fannie.
Oh, yes, Fannie Willis, yes.
And, you know, the whole system is corrupt. And perhaps I was talking to someone, and they intimated that this story, the Fannie Gate situation, will induce people to understand that this system is totally corrupt. The judge came out with this decision that essentially protected the prosecutor. You know, you know, I mean, there's a rule book for them and a rule book for us, and this is the same shit warmed over. And people, listen. I've been hearing for years. Well, you know, the people are gonna wake up. Well, yeah, some of them sleep late. You know, you see, they sleep in on a Saturday. You know, but I think that we're reaching a period where, you know, people are being oversaturated with the corruption, and they see what's going on.
Yeah.
Fannie Willis is a perfect example. You know, are you familiar with D.W. Griffith?
Yes.
Okay, The Birth of a Nation.
Enlighten me about that. I'm not familiar.
Well, there used to be a theater here named after him.
Really?
Yes, D.W. Griffith Theater in New York.
Wow. Okay.
Totally racist movie.
Sorry?
Totally racist movie.
Oh, of course. However, you know, there's some scenes. There's a reason why she's calling it, Jacqueline is calling it racist. It is racist to the bone. It depicts people during the Reconstruction, Black people being totally corrupt, just chasing women and whatever, eating chicken. You know, they're sitting up there just eating the chicken. But
all the stereotypes, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. However, do you know Amos and Andy?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's this lawyer, Calhoun. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah,
Which Calhoun was that?
That's the lawyer. The lawyer.
Yeah.
Well,
no, but from what context?
Amos and Andy.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't make the connection.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And so I thought this was a strange mixture between A Birth of a Nation and D.W. Griffith and Amos and Andy. You know, I mean, that perhaps might be funnier to a Black person, you know, than to some other ethnic group, you know. And I'll stick my neck out when I say that, you know. I probably would be criticized for saying it, but I say it, you know. It's horrible, you know, the ignorance. One thing I'll say, this woman indicated she didn't know what continent Belize was on. She didn't know. This is one of the trips that she made with her lover, with Nathan Wade. And I said, that's odd. Here is the district attorney for a county in Georgia does not know what continent her feet are resting on. How can she be competent to mete out justice and she doesn't know what continent she's a very ignorant woman. There's no other way to articulate that, you know. And I don't know, I was just upset about that. this Nathan Wade is a pig, you know, please. But you have to be careful, you know, people, if you tell the truth, you know, if you say what it is, somebody may object. If they don't like it, they can challenge me, you know. However, you know, we're faced with so many things. I said when President Trump ran the first time, I said he would win. That was my assessment, given the situation. And I said after they tried to put him in jail, I said, yeah, he'll win again. And mark my words, you know, we're approaching a time in history where everything is up. You know, everything is hanging in the air. Everything is in question. Everything. And you better believe the people who planned January 6th are planning a bigger move.
Right.
If and when they move on Trump.
Well, I just very quickly relate to that. Ignorance is a lot of our precincts had sent policemen to train in Israel. They come back, and they're also indoctrinated along with the same type of indoctrination Israelis are with respect to Palestinians. They're indoctrinated of these racist, knee-jerk approaches to ethnic groups like African Americans, and as well as Arabs, because in Israel, the same racism doesn't just flow from Israeli Jews to Palestinian Arabs, it also goes to African, anyone with dark skin. Those policemen that are trained there, American policemen, come back to the United States. And that whole, you know, that whole issue with Rodney King and what happened in Ferguson, they were using militaristic techniques, that very violent techniques that Israelis have been using with Palestinians for years on. And guess who they try it out on when they come back from training from Israel? Usually it's an ethnic group, African American or Latino. They try it out on, and then we see this whole line of brutality, overreacting, militaristic, violent quelling of human beings, in particular African Americans. And it's not just about the techniques they're using, Darnell, right? It's also their mindset. Because these are they're racist mindset, and it's startling because they're being trained. It's about the chokehold, brainwashing, the chokehold, all the brainwashing we talked about. It comes from saying they've been trained, you know, to really overreact, and they try to justify it. And we talk about corruption when the communities tried to support these policemen, and then they realized, you know, that what they were doing were based on preconceived ideas and brainwashing that they're a part of. Then we see the whole picture here as things are evolving. And like you say, things are hanging, Darnell, and the ignorance is there, and it's coming back. We're going backwards in time now, where we evolved for a while. We're getting more simply knowledge and understanding, and more humanitarian principles were coming in, and we're listening to each other, like you've been trying to say, Brenda, as opposed to, just spouting off the way we've been brainwashed when we were younger, that this Black group, or I come from an Italian American family, they're all degenerates, and you should be expulsed from the United States. They're not really Americans. We moved away from that, and we're starting to get more educated and more sensitive. And now it seems like we're moving back to that dark hole of ignorance. And we see the type of politicians that are being elected that manifest that, and the danger it's happening. And it's going to be up to people like you, Darnell, and Jacqui, and Brenda, to go ahead and say it anyway, even though we could get ourselves in trouble for being honest like this, to tell the truth, fight on it, but stay communicative as opposed to simply spouting off steam. You know, that we'll try to communicate with others, like the former Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg was saying, and you've been advocating, Brenda. But we're up in the air now. We're not
that much up in the air. The one thing that can be said, you know, the 30,000 plus lives were not wasted, because the world now knows about Palestine and the history of Israel like it never has known before. People looking at 1948, how Israel was founded. They're looking at the atrocities. They're looking at the situation of Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza. And people have learned in the last 4 months an enormous amount around the world. I talk to people all the time. I said, I never knew anything really much about what was going on there. And so that they have not died in vain, that the world has made a huge change. Look at Ireland, you know, that it took, unfortunately, all this death and devastation, but people now know what's going on, and they're going to be looking at Israel quite differently, you know. And this Schumer could come out with what he came out.
But it's true in a way, because stuff that you've been doing, Jacqui, I know you, Brenda, and Darnell, in your way, you've been an activist. People are starting to think that we're not so crazy after all, but we've been talking about what's been going on, in particular in Israel and Palestine, for 20 years. And for the most part, they kind of put up with me and says, yeah, it's interesting and stuff. But now they're coming back to me and they're saying, you know, you've been saying this for all along, and maybe you're not so crazy after all. And maybe there's something valid to what you were saying, that this kind of genocidal stuff that we see has been happening in the United States with respect to ethnic groups long time, and it's still happening in parts of the United States. It has been going on a long time. It's not new. It's not new.
You know, I'm from Detroit. I grew up in an old Jewish neighborhood, actually. And, you know, I grew up with seeing shop owners with numbers on their forearms. You know, this is how I grew up, you know. And of course, you know, my mother would take me shopping, and I asked her once, why does these people have numbers on their arms? And she told me, like my mother would do, she said, go to the library. Well, you know, and I went to the library. I did.
Bless her.
Yeah. And well, that it was one of the libraries that Carnegie
founded,
funded.
Funded.
Yeah, right. You know, I'm eternally grateful. What was it? Andrew Carnegie, right?
Andrew Carnegie.
I'm eternally grateful to Andrew Carnegie for that move. It was brilliant because he built libraries all over Detroit. Beautiful libraries. Libraries that now lay in decay. That are no longer functional.
Cutting down libraries in New York. Budget is trying to close 100 libraries in New York City.
It's criminal. It's criminal. Yeah. And they know what they're doing.
Sure.
They won't close down the jail, but they will close down the library. Yeah. This is ridiculous.
Everybody, I have to go.
Okay. Well, yeah, and this is going to be, we've got the 2 hours, but, you know, it's like, you know, the founding fathers, and we'll kind of wrap it up. The founding fathers said one of the important things of a democracy, of a threshold of a democracy, which our country is happening now, is people need to be well informed.
Yes.
And now it seems like the politicians want to keep us in the dark as much as possible so they can continue their corruption, continue this ignorance, so they can manipulate us. But you're right, Jacqui, for sure, these people have not and will not continue to die in vain. They're helping us to inform us about what's going on, and we'll take it from there. But thank you so much for all your participation. And this is recorded, and I could send you this recording. I hope it's still being recorded, but this is very, very important meeting. I appreciate all your contributions.
Well, I'm very happy to meet Jacqui and Darnell, whom I didn't know before.
Pleased to meet you.
Thank you for letting me express my thoughts about things, and I hope I didn't say anything that offended anyone. Everyone's quick to take offense these days.
I know.
But I try to remain open to ideas and to really try to dig deep into the understanding of why things happen and how we can help even in a small way. So
yeah, and Alan, did you have any last words to?
No, this has been very good.
Okay.
I've been paged by somebody else to join this meeting, but this is
Well,
very
Darnell,
good.
Alan, Jacqui, Brenda, I praise
I
you,
just
love you for being a part of this.
want to mention
My
one
pleasure.
Go ahead, Jacqui. Go ahead.
To the idea of dialogue and there's a guy and a woman who are touring. They're both one is from Israel, the other is Palestinian, and they've been going around the country, particularly going to synagogues. The guy is Jewish, I think, and they have been going around to synagogues all around the country, and also other public places, trying to discuss. And they're a living example of collaboration and cooperation between Palestinians and Israelis, between Jew and Muslim. So that there's stuff going on.
yes.
We don't know everything that's going on. It's easy to get depressed. I get depressed every morning when I wake up. I think Gaza. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And I have friends there, artist friends. And actually, my painting probably got bombed. I had a painting in Gaza that I met the Gaza Dance Company in Cairo in 2011 at the Arab Spring Arts Festival, and the artists, the Gaza Dance Company were wonderful young women. They loved my painting, so I gave it to them to take back to Gaza, and they put it in their dance studio, and now it's probably bombed. So, I mean, I know people. These are not just, people I see in the news or whatever. And it's much harder, when you know people. Frank, I know you know people there too. It's just, I mean, I'm afraid every day to look on Facebook to see if they're still dead or alive, if they've starved to death. It's,
like you, Jacqui, I really feel, and with working with Alan and Brenda and the support of this, and your support too, Jacqui, and Darnell, you don't know this, but we've been active in theater. I mean, I'm retired lawyer and all this, and I'm back to my original profession, which is acting. And we're doing a film. We're finding through art, even though we're frustrated and depressed, we feel so useful, but through art, we're able to express ourselves and convey messages that maybe we can't do elsewhere. So it's valuable. We're staying on. That's helping me stay sane.
I just did this while we were talking. By the way,
anyway, thank you. What's that, Jacqui?
I just made this drawing while we were talking today. Let me see if I can show it to you.
Please, and can you send it to us, maybe?
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
Wow.
That's fabulous.
Send it to us, please.
Yeah, can you photograph it and send it out?
Yeah, it's not finished yet. It's
and Jacqui has been the one. It's spearheaded Zoom Palestine. I'm just kind of piggybacking on to what she's started, that we do every week pretty much. Jacqui does. I haven't been available lately. I'll try to be more available, but we'll keep this going with different themes. It's all connected every week. Jacqui does it around noon, I think, right? Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. Is that right?
Actually, at my job, I'm teaching, but I never get students who come because I teach in like a scam school. So
scam school, I love it.
Just get the letter. Just get a diesel letter.
They need more teachers there. I kind of like that.
Yeah, they do. You get paid to do nothing. So
perfect.
I'm actually sitting in my classroom, and I take my lunch hour at noon so that they can't complain. And actually, what's kind of cool is my coworker across the hall from me is Palestinian American. So we have a lot of things to talk about, and he knows I do this, and he doesn't rat on me, through the wall. Right. He can hear me.
But got my kafia here. But let's stay in touch. Let's stay in touch, and we'll do it next week. Think of another theme, and of course, any possibilities that for themes, please let us know, and we'll work on it. And I'll try to be more available. I've been traveling, and working on, I've had some Mayadin TV and Akechera from Egypt TV interviews that I've had to focus on. But thank you so much for your involvement, and please send out that art to us, Jacqui.
Yes.
I will. Oh, by the
And,
way, I was interviewed by Jordan Times yesterday.
Oh, great.
Good.
So that Stefan, remember
Yes.
Stefan?
Yes. I met him, didn't I?
Yeah, he's an editor there now. So he interviewed me for Jordan Times. So I've got I'll send you a link to the video.
Send us a link, please, and let's stay in touch. Thanks for your involvement. We're gonna be clocking out because this is actually was set for 2 hours. We got 3 minutes. Love you guys for being a part of it. Let's keep this going.
Nice to meet everybody.
And
All
we'll be in touch soon, I hope.
Very good. Very good, people.
All right.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. I had to go too. Yeah.